Hello everyone and welcome to the Great Hunt reread on Reading the Pattern. This has been a long time coming, so I'm really excited for it. If you're new to my channel and you haven't seen my previous reread videos, The Great Hunt is, of course, book 2 of the Wheel of Time series. So you're going to want to check out those previous videos. I have, of course, done book 1, The Eye of the World, and I've also covered New Spring, the prequel. For those of you who have seen some of those videos, I'll just give you a little brief refresher on how this reread series works. I first recap the chapters. Today I'm covering the prologue and chapters 1 through 3. And then after the recaps, I get into some in-depth, spoiler-filled discussion. And in each section, when I get to it, I'll just give you a little reminder about what that section's all about. I also wanted to give you a really quick update on the last video I did where I let you know that I had started a Ko-fi page to help pay for a new microphone and sound equipment to help make my videos sound better. And already I'm about 2/3 of the way to the goal I had set. So you guys are awesome. Thank you so much. And along with that, just a reminder, there are 2 ways that you can potentially get one of these really cool custom wooden Reading the Pattern bookmarks. One of those is to, after you finish watching this video, leave me a comment and I will choose 10 of you at random to send one of these to if you live in the US. And if you're not one of those lucky 10 and you still want one, you can donate $10 or more through the Ko-fi page. And again, leave me your address and I'll send you one. Now, let's get to The Great Hunt. This video may include spoilers for all Wheel of Time books. If you have not finished reading the series and do not want to be massively spoiled, stop here or proceed at your own risk. Prologue. In the Shadow. A man who calls himself Bors is in an odd chamber in an unknown place. And there are about 100 other people, all of them wearing black silk masks. Bors had been summoned, and he could not ignore it. The flames in the fireplace give off no heat. There are beautiful, indistinct servants passing drinks, with disturbing grace and doll-like, dead-looking eyes. Bors studies his companions, not all of whom have disguised themselves as well as he has. He notices noble women from Ilion and Aradoman, a Shinaran soldier, a High Lord of Tyr, a tinker, an Andoran Queen's Guard, one of the Sea Folk, and 2 Aes Sedai. 2 Trollocs and a Myrddraal enter before a man who calls himself Baalzamon. Baalzamon tells them they are in the shadow of Shayol Ghul, and the day of return draws nigh. He shows the Dark Friends images of 3 young men, one of whom has an air of mischief, another one who looks like a blacksmith and has yellow eyes, and the third who carries a heron-marked sword. Baalzamon tells them to remember the 3 and that the dragon has been reborn. One by one, Baalzamon gives instructions to each of the Dark Friends that only they can hear. When he comes to Bors, he commands him to return to Taraban and continue his good work there, to have his followers also watch for the 3 young men, and to say nothing of those who have landed at Toman Head. He is then given further instructions that make no sense, and then his mind is flooded with images, and he is given a command that he does not even remember, but that will come back to him at the correct time. Finally, a servant takes him back to his room, where he changes back into his clothes, the uniform of one of the Children of the Light, and a questioner. Chapter 1. The Flame of Tar Valon. It is spring in the Borderlands, though it should be summer already. At Faldara Keep, Rand al'Thor is practicing the sword with Lan Mandragoran when a wind suddenly traps him and causes him to stumble. When he explains what happened, Lan tells him strange things happen near the Blight. Lan is surprised that Rand is still in Faldara when he said he planned to leave a month ago. Rand claims he stayed to learn the sword. Lan tells him he could sell his sword, which was made by Aes Sedai using the One Power, making it extremely rare and valuable. Rand will not hear of it. Lan also tells Rand that in 5 years he could make Rand into a blade master, but that already he's competent enough to get by. Rand then says he is staying to be with his friends as long as he can, but Lan does not buy that either. Rand finally admits he is staying because he wants answers out of Moiraine, who will not even talk to him. Moiraine has even gone off somewhere, though Lan says she has returned now. Suddenly, trumpets sound, announcing the arrival of a caravan from Tar Valon, which includes the Amyrlin seat herself. Lan is sympathetic to Rand and tells him that their lessons are over and he should be a week gone. Rand begins to run.
Chapter 2, The Welcome.
Rand is greeted by many as he runs through the halls of the keep to the room he has been sharing with Mat and Perrin. He finds women clearing out all of their wardrobes and replacing all of the old clothes with new. The Shatayan tells him that this is on Moraine's orders, and she insists on him even removing all of the clothes he's wearing for her to dispose of. He asks the women to wait outside, which makes them laugh. When he's alone, he starts changing and he notices all of the elaborate embroidery on all of the clothes, even a cloak with a dragon on it, and he is horrified. Nevertheless, he changes and packs his bags with all the new clothes. With them, he also packs a gleeman's cloak, harp and flute, and his own bow and arrows, and begins making his way towards the stable. He passes the courtyard where people are gathered to see the Amyrlin. Lord Agulmar is there to greet the Amyrlin and her keeper of the chronicles and many Aes Sedai and warders. Rand flinches when he feels the Amyrlin's eyes pass over him, and he does not linger. When he reaches the stable and requests his horse, the groom must refuse, saying he just received orders that all the gates are closed and no one is to enter or leave without permission.
Chapter 3, Friends and Enemies.
Rand tries another gate, guarded by men he knows, Ragan and Massima. But unlike most Shienarans, Massima seems to dislike Rand, and neither of them will let him pass. He finds even the smallest gate is guarded and begins thinking about scaling some walls. He keeps moving, determined not to give in. And he feels a sense of unseen eyes watching him. He runs across Loyal, who is watching some men play dice, and Loyal realizes that Rand wants to leave, so he calls Mat and Perrin over. None of them understand why Rand wants to leave, but when Rand realizes they all mean to go with him, he makes some cutting remarks so they won't want to. Mat leaves angrily, and Perrin goes with him. And when Rand makes some even nastier comments to Loyal, he leaves eventually as well. He keeps moving and then bumps into Egwene, who gives him a hard time for the way he treated Mat, Perrin, and Loyal. When he tries to walk away from her, she jumps on him and threatens to set his pants on fire. She insists on helping to hide him and convinces him to go with her to the dungeon, where she sometimes goes to visit Padan Fain. They find the guards uncharacteristically rude, but they are let in. Egwene notes that both the guards and the other prisoners get nastier by the day. Fain greets Rand familiarly and then begins ranting in a mocking way. Egwene realizes that it was a bad idea to bring Rand there, and then tries to convince him that a better place to hide will be the women's apartments. So, as always, in the foretelling section, I'm trying to pick out all those little details that you might miss on a first read and point out all the masterful bits of foreshadowing that Robert Jordan seeded into his work. We have a lot of fun little details in the prologue, better known as the Dark Friend Social. We can either reason out or have confirmation of several of the identities of the Dark Friends there. First, of course, we find out that Bors is Jaikim Karadin, who commanded the Hand of the Light, aka the Questioners, in Taraban. This is not too hard to figure out once we see him as Karadin, and it is, of course, eventually confirmed in the books. We do have confirmation that the Shinaran soldier is Ingtar, who is revealed to be a dark friend at the end of this book. The High Lord of Tyr is almost certainly Wereman Santiago, who is much later outed as a dark friend and is seen at other times in the series wearing silver-worked boots. We have Robert Jordan confirming that one of the Aes Sedai is Leandrin Sedai, who is revealed to be a dark friend later in this book. The other Aes Sedai we can only really speculate, but a good guess would be Alviarin, who is the head of the Black Aja at the time.
There's also some foreshadowing in the images that flash through Bors's mind. Most notably, he sees a woman or girl in white who is most likely Lanfear/Selene, a Shan-Chan soldier, and the Horn of Valir, which are all key plot points in this book.
The strange wind that grabs a hold of Rand on top of the keep is most likely a bubble of evil, the first we see, and not a very powerful one. Lan makes a sort of offhand comment about Ingtar having been gone off and come back again, supposedly hunting. In hindsight, we can say this is because Ingtar was actually summoned to the Dark Friend Social. Moiraine has a similar absence that's noted on, and this could be seen as a clue that Moiraine had also been to the Dark Friend Social, but of course this is misdirection and Moiraine is not a Dark Friend. When Rand feels Swan's gaze on him, we later learn that at this moment she's actually seeing a halo around him, which is due to his Ta'veren nature and her rare gift of being able to see Ta'veren. Rand also feels unseen eyes watching him as he's making his way through the keep, and this is likely a gray man following him, that same gray man who will later shoot an arrow that nearly misses Swan. We get our first glimpse of Mat playing dice, and of course he is winning, which is the first hint we have of his luck.
The nastiness of the guards and other prisoners in Fane's dungeon is a result of his merging with Mordeth. And this isn't too hard to figure out considering the thoroughly creepy way he keeps saying Mordeth knows. Basically everything out of Fane's mouth in that scene is bone-chilling, despite its vagueness.
In Threads of the Pattern, I'm talking about my favorite character moments from these chapters. Chapters 1 through 3 are all from Rand's POV. And I don't think we see a lot of change from him yet. He's still very much pained by the idea that Tam is not his birth father and very attached to his sword as that tangible connection to Tam. We also see that he is still absolutely determined and refusing to go down without a fight despite feeling cornered by the Amyrlin seat. Easily the most frustrating thing that Rand does in these chapters is lie to his friends about why he's leaving and say nasty things to them so they won't want to come with him. Instead of attempting any amount of honesty, he plays on the Shinaran's assumptions that he is a lord due to the Al prefix in his name and acts an arrogant jerk. Being inside his head, we do understand that he just doesn't want them to know that he can channel. And he doesn't want anyone he cares about to get hurt by staying near him. Maybe he understands his friend's stubbornness enough to know that nothing else would work, but it still comes back to bite him in the ass. It's really hard to blame any of them for being hurt and angry. Not surprisingly, Mat is the one who's most angry, and the effects of the Shadar Logoth dagger probably have some impact, but he also just seems like the least tolerant of anyone acting like an arrogant lord anyway. Also, not surprisingly, Loial is the one who's most patient and reluctant to leave his friend, and so Rand has to be extra cutting to him to convince him to leave, which is just painful to read. Anyone who messes with Loial just earns my ire. Egwene immediately understands what Rand was trying to do, having the benefit of knowing that he can channel, and she doesn't spare him her criticism. The argument that Egwene and Rand have reveals a lot about their relationship. They both really understand each other very well, and yet significantly underestimate the other. Egwene knows that Rand will not want to hurt anyone, and Rand knows when Egwene is trying to shift the argument. Egwene also thinks that Rand is a lot less capable than he really is, and this might be due to the stereotypes about men that she's been fed since birth in the Two Rivers. And Rand accuses Egwene of wanting to work with the Aes Sedai against him, which at this point she has no thought of doing. And in fact, she instead, without hesitation, begins working to keep him hidden. Egwene just dives headfirst into everything, whether it's literally jumping on Rand to keep him from getting away from her, or taking initiative to go talk to Padan Fain despite the danger. At this point, Egwene's loyalties are still firmly with Rand, despite their friction. I also want to circle back to Lan, because I continue to love the little hints of his affection for Rand. My favorite moment was when he seems to understand why Rand is so attached to his sword, and tells him basically, Tam is his father because he raised him, and his birth doesn't change that at all. He's absolutely right and very astute. If only Rand could have taken that more to heart. In Lan's cautious praise of Rand's abilities with the swords, we can actually understand how impressed he really is, because Lan does not give praise cheaply. He's sympathetic towards Rand's feelings for Egwene, probably because of his own growing feelings for Nynaeve, but he's sympathetic towards Rand's predicament in general, though he's not about to let him criticize Moiraine. Lan's loyalty to Moiraine remains, despite his growing attachments that are starting to take root. In the Ta'veren sections, I will comment on the themes and focal points in that set of chapters. For me, the one that's most important in this set is secrecy. We see that in the Dark Friends social, of course, that the Shadow operates entirely with secrecy and a lack of trust within its ranks. This makes sense, of course, because Dark Friends typically join out of pure self-interest. There's no such thing as loyalty, only power. So they're smart to give orders to each Dark Friend individually to make sure no one understands the whole plot. Smart even to give some orders that are secret even to the individual they're given to. While I'm on that, can I just comment on the irony that the first Dark Friend POV we are given is one of the Children of the Light? I mean, of course there are White Cloak Dark Friends, but their hypocrisy is just hilarious. But when it comes to secrecy on the light side, here it doesn't make sense and typically leads to great harm. Rand keeping his secret from his friends only hurts them and doesn't even give them a chance to support him. Worse, though, than that is Moiraine's secrecy with Rand. She has her reasons, and she's probably right that he needs to start going off on his own without aid from Aes Sedai and to become the leader that he needs to be. But in the process, she creates or begins to create his distrust of Aes Sedai, which will be significantly worsened later on by much deeper betrayals. Moiraine herself eventually has to change course, but only after she's done some damage to his trust of her. This fits in with one of Robert Jordan's major themes about how much harm can come from miscommunication. The Shadow should be pretty straightforward. We're going to be talking about dark stuff. And in this case, let's talk about those deeply disturbing servants passing drinks at the Dark Friend social. These creatures are called Zomara, and they were made in the Age of Legends for this exact purpose. The fact that they're passing drinks in a dream shard in the Third Age means that they were probably hanging out in a stasis box since the Age of Legends. They're all young, beautiful, slim, graceful, golden-haired, and very difficult to distinguish from one another, whether they are male or female. And they have blank stares and dead eyes because they're essentially soulless. They were made to be the perfect slaves, utterly docile and obedient, and with no mind of their own, beyond being able to sense exactly what their masters wanted, and no ability to communicate. They appear to have been made from human genetics, and the idea that these creatures could have been made in any way from human beings is skin crawling, to say the least. Lastly, Aiel Humor, where I talk about stuff that made me laugh, just for fun. In this case, the only bit I wanted to add was Rand practically jumping out of his skin at the idea of Shienaran women seeing him naked, and them taking advantage of that. It's basically just a funny little culture clash that we see over the next several chapters as well. The Shienarans are just like, dude, whatever, we bathe together, who cares? I had fun with that, watching the Emmonsfield boys squirm and the Shienaran women just having fun at their expense.
Don't forget, if you want to win one of these bookmarks, be a subscriber and leave me a comment on this video. Let me know what are your favorite parts from these chapters that you're most looking forward to seeing in the TV show. I will let you know who the winners are in the next reread episode. I wanted to shout out the viewers who have contributed to the microphone fundraiser so far. First names only for privacy, but thank you guys so much. I really appreciate your generosity. I'll see you back here soon for The Great Hunt, chapters 4 through 6.